I never expected the streets of the Midlands to press against my chest like this. At first glance, they seem ordinary, just rows of houses, pavements, and streetlights. Yet there's a weight in the air you can't explain. It feels as if the neighborhood is quietly watching, testing you without a word. Locals walk past without thinking, but the moment you linger, even a second too long, you notice it. Uneasy, silent, heavy. Tonight, I'm taking you through the 10 worst places people avoid and why you might think twice before stepping in. If you're enjoying this journey through the Midlands, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Traveling Guide Hub for more real and thrilling adventures. Number 1. Sparkbrook, Birmingham, West Midlands. I didn't feel scared when I first stepped into Sparkbrook. What I felt was a quiet pressure right in my chest, that instinctive signal your body sends before your mind catches up. The streets looked ordinary, yet my pace slowed, like part of me was listening for something I couldn't hear. Sparkbrook was built in the late 19th century for workers powering Birmingham's factories. When those industries collapsed, the area carried the weight, overcrowding and neglect that never really lifted. You could feel it without anyone explaining it. History was visible in the streets, the houses, even the rhythm of people moving through the alleys. It was early evening, the light already thinning. I remembered a local shopkeeper's words, "Don't hang around once the light goes." He said it quietly, without anger, without explanation. That stayed with me. Sirens echoed far off, never close enough to panic, never far enough to relax. My footsteps sounded loud, then vanished, as though the street swallowed them. Shoulders tensed, jaw clenched. Halfway down one road, I stopped, not by choice. My body just did it. Locals say it's worse near a certain alley. Footsteps matching yours for a moment, then gone. A pressure in the air that thickens after dark. No one knows why. They just leave when time whispers it's up. As the temperature dropped slightly, I realized I was holding my breath. Sparkbrook wasn't trying to scare me. It was testing whether I would notice, and some never do until it's too late. 2. Handsworth, Birmingham, West Midlands. Stepping off the main road into Handsworth, dusk had settled fully. The air felt heavier here, though not obviously so. It pressed gently, quietly, like the streets themselves were watching, waiting. My steps slowed, not from fear, but because the neighborhood demanded attention before my mind caught up. A faint mix of damp brick and fried food lingered in the alleys. Comforting, almost, yet unsettling. Handsworth's history mirrors Birmingham's industrial rise. Factory workers and families shaped these streets for generations. When factories closed, the area kept their weight, the cracked pavements, flickering street lights, and shadows pooling in empty corners. You don't read that in reports, you walk it. A small shopkeeper leaned against his doorway as I passed. He didn't look up, didn't emphasize a word. Best not to hang around after dark. Then he went back inside, as if obvious, unworthy of discussion. That warning lingered long after I moved on. Sirens echoed far off, not close enough to panic, never far enough to relax. A floorboard creaked, then silence. Music drifted faintly from half-open windows. A street lamp flickered, casting unnatural shadows. My shoulders stiffened. Mid-step, my body pivoted down a narrow side street without asking my mind. Instinct had chosen for me. Locals share similar experiences. One man says it's worst near the old community center. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Doors slam without wind. Shadows shift unnaturally. They don't know why. They just know to notice. A cool, pressing weight brushed my neck. Handsworth wasn't here to frighten me. It was testing my awareness. And some don't notice in time. 3. Small Heath, Birmingham, West Midlands. Evening haze settled as I wandered into Small Heath. Street lamps buzzed faintly, one flickered uncertainly. My chest tightened, not from fear, but from the sense the neighborhood noticed me before I noticed it. Faint sense of takeaway spices mingled with damp asphalt. Ordinary, yet oppressive. Small Heath grew with Birmingham's industrial expansion, a district for factory workers and families. When factories closed, the streets kept that weight. Vacant lots, worn terraces, quiet tension not reflected in statistics. You feel it in the street's rhythm, in shadows lingering longer than they should. A man perched on a low wall of a corner shop caught my eye. He didn't raise his voice, he didn't wave me off. Keep moving once it gets dark. Then he went back to cleaning his hands with a rag. That echoed in my mind long after I'd passed. Music drifted from a distant house, cheerful, almost absurd against the stillness. Sirens wailed far away, not close enough to alarm me, not far enough to relax. A cat scuttled across the alley. My shoulders stiffened. Mid-step, movement flickered behind me. I veered into a side street I hadn't chosen. My mind hadn't yet caught up. Locals say it's worst near the playground where lights fail. Doors slam when no wind blows. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Shadows feel alive. No one knows why. They just notice or get caught unaware. A cool wind brushed my neck. Not cold, deliberate, pressing. Small Heath wasn't here to entertain me. It was testing me. Some never notice until it's too late. 4. Alum Rock, Birmingham, West Midlands. I stepped into Alum Rock as the streetlight struggled to push back the evening. The air was thick, sticky almost, carrying scents of fried food and damp concrete. My chest tightened, as if the streets themselves were measuring me, testing whether I belonged or would notice its subtle warnings. Alum Rock's history is one of migration and industry. Factories closed, streets didn't empty, they aged, some buildings abandoned, some quietly worn. You feel it in the narrow alleys, the hum of distant traffic, shadows clinging longer than they should. A small corner shop caught my eye. A man inside glanced briefly, then leaned back. Don't linger once it gets dark. Quiet, casual, then back to stacking shelves. That simple warning lingered far longer than any sign. Music floated from a nearby house, cheerful, out of place against the heavy tension. Sirens wailed far off, not close enough to panic. A loose shutter banged. Mid-step, movement flickered. Without thinking, I turned down a side alley I hadn't planned. My mind caught up later. Locals say it feels heaviest near the old community hall. Doors slam with no wind, footsteps echo in silence. Shadows move differently than expected. No one knows why, they just know when to leave. A chill brushed my neck. Not cold, deliberate, pressing. Alum Rock wasn't trying to frighten me, it was testing my attention. Some never notice until it's too late. 5. St. Anne's, Nottingham, Nottinghamshire. Evening mist had begun settling when I entered St. Anne's. The air was damp, faintly scented with wet leaves and old brick. My chest tightened, the unmistakable signal that the neighborhood noticed me first. Streets seemed ordinary, yet something invisible threaded through the shadows, tugging at my attention. St. Anne's has over a century of working-class history, shaped by industry and migration. Factories closed, streets kept their weight. Empty lots, worn houses, narrow alleys. You feel the heaviness in the air, more than any document could convey. A man leaned against a doorway. "Once it gets dark, don't hang about." Then he returned inside. That quiet warning echoed in my chest. Music drifted from a side street, cheerful, absurd against the stillness. Sirens wailed in the distance, not close enough to startle, not far enough to relax. A rusted gate creaked without wind. Mid-step, movement flickered. My feet carried me into an alley I hadn't planned. My mind followed. Locals say it's heaviest near the old community park. Shadows shift with flickering lights. Doors slam in silence. Footsteps echo. No one knows why. They just move quickly. A cool, damp breeze brushed my neck, deliberate, pressing. St. Anne's wasn't here to scare me. It tested my awareness. Some never notice until it's too late. 6. Hyson Green, Nottingham, Nottinghamshire. Twilight fell as I stepped into Hyson Green. The air felt dense, damp brick, street food, and earthy scents from the park. My chest tightened, that subtle signal before the mind catches up. Every step felt heavier, the street leaning in, watching. Hyson Green grew with generations of families and industry. Factories and businesses vanished, but the streets absorbed decades of neglect. You feel it. Uneven pavements, flickering streetlights, narrow alleys gathering shadows. A corner shop smelled faintly of fried snacks. The man inside glanced up briefly. Best not to linger after dark. No drama, no explanation. That casual warning lodged itself in my chest. Faint music floated from nearby, upbeat yet jarring. Sirens wailed in the distance, not close enough to startle, not far enough to relax. A loose sign banged, shadows flickered. My body veered into a side alley I hadn't intended. My mind followed seconds later. Locals say it's worst near the old church. Doors slam when wind doesn't blow. Footsteps echo where no one walks. Shadows move on their own. No one knows why, they just notice. A cold breeze brushed my neck. Not cold, deliberate, pressing. Hyson Green wasn't trying to scare me, it was testing me. Some never notice, until it's too late. 7. Hillfields, Coventry, West Midlands. Late afternoon sun faded as I wandered into Hillfields. The air smelled of damp concrete and burnt toast. Ordinary, yet heavy, pressing against my chest. Steps slowed naturally, as if the streets were watching, testing whether I belonged or noticed the tension. Hillfields grew with Coventry's industrial boom. Factories closed, streets absorbed loss and quiet neglect. You feel it. Uneven pavements, shuttered windows, shadows lingering longer than they should. A man swept the doorway of a tiny shop. "Don't linger once it's dark," he muttered, then back to work. That casual warning lingered, more unsettling than any story. Faint radio music drifted, cheerful, out of place. Sirens wailed far away. A metal gate clanged, shadows flickered. Mid-step, my body pivoted down a narrow alley I hadn't chosen. Mind caught up a heartbeat later. Locals say it's heaviest near the old community hall. Doors slam without wind. Shadows shift faster than light allows. Footsteps echo where no one walks. No one knows why. They just notice. A cool wind brushed my neck. Not cold, deliberate, pressing. Hillfields wasn't here to frighten me. It tested my attention. Some never notice until it's too late. 8. Brookside, Wolverhampton, West Midlands. Last light faded over rooftops as I entered Brookside. The air smelled of wet grass and distant exhaust. Chest tightened, instinct first, mind second. Streets pressed against me, nudging me to notice. Brookside's history of industry and tight-knit communities left its mark. Factories closed, streets absorbed quiet hardship. Cracked pavements, shuttered windows, shadows gathering in corners. You feel it. A man leaned against a doorway. "Better move along before dark." Quiet, obvious. then inside. Warning lingered. Faint, cheerful music drifted, sirens wailed far off, a loose sign rattled, shadows shifted, my body veered down a side street I hadn't intended, mind followed seconds later. Locals, worst near small park, streetlights flicker, doors slam with no wind, shadows move on their own. No one knows why, they just notice. Cool breeze brushed my neck, not cold, deliberate, pressing. Brookside wasn't here to scare, it was testing. Some never notice until it's too late. 9. Bentley, Stoke-on-Trent, Staffordshire. Dusk thickened as I entered Bentley, air damp, faint smoke, earthy notes, chest tightened, instinct. Streets assessed me, waiting to see if I'd notice. Bentley housed workers during industrial expansion. Factories closed, leaving weight, empty lots, worn terraces, narrow lanes. Shadows linger, footsteps echo, air feels heavy. A man swept the doorstep. "Don't hang around after dark." Quiet lodged in my chest. Faint music drifted, sirens wailed, metal gate clanged, shadows shifted, body pivoted into alley I hadn't chosen, mind followed. Locals, heaviest near the old community center, doors slam with no wind, footsteps echo, shadows move unnaturally. No one knows why, they just notice. Cold breeze brushed neck, not cold, deliberate, pressing. Bentley wasn't trying to scare, testing awareness. Some never notice until it's too late. 10. Erdington, Birmingham, West Midlands. Evening shadows stretched as I stepped into Erdington. Air faintly smelled of damp brick, burning wood, metallic notes. Chest tightened, instinct. Streets quietly alive, pressing lightly against senses. Erdington shaped by generations of families and industry. Factories closed, streets absorbed lives lived and abandoned. Uneven pavements, flickering streetlights, shadows lingering in narrow lanes. Experience, not reports. A man leaned against a doorway. "Don't stay too long after dark." Quiet, understated, clung more potent than any sign. Faint, cheerful music drifted, sirens wailed far off, metal shutter banged. Mid-step, movement flickered, body pivoted down alley I hadn't chosen, mind followed. Locals heaviest near old community hall, doors slam with no wind, footsteps echo, shadows shift unnaturally. No one knows why, just notice or risk too late. Cold breeze brushed neck, not cold, deliberate, pressing. Erdington wasn't here to scare, testing awareness. Some never notice until it's too late. And you have to wonder, in a city full of unnoticed streets, how many of us walk through life without ever really noticing what's around us? Walking through the Midlands, streets seem ordinary, familiar, even safe. But these neighborhoods carry layers of history, neglect, and quiet warnings, a weight you can feel if you pay attention. Locals know it, visitors often do not. Each alley, flickering streetlight, and abandoned building has a story to tell, if only you notice. Next time you walk an unfamiliar street, pause, listen, look around. Sometimes the ordinary isn't harmless at all. Which place would you avoid walking alone after dark, and why?